Ollama shipped a point release yesterday. 4 bullets, nobody put it on the front page. One of those bullets deletes a line item on your OpenAI bill. Not tomorrow, not when someone builds a wrapper, today. One command, the laptop already in front of you. Version is Ollama 0.32.11. Sounds like a rounding error. Reads like the one that ends a subscription. 3 answers by the end of this video. Which paid endpoint just became optional? Which 2 agent runtimes now run on your own machine for $0? And the honest hardware flaw so you do not embarrass yourself moving the wrong workflow. 4 bullets shipped in the release. DeepSeek's own agent harness. Meta's Muse code CLI. Web search on the OpenAI compatible endpoint. And a template update nobody cares about. The biggest one first. The OpenAI Responses API is the endpoint your VA's code calls when the model needs to actually go browse the web. Draft this reply, but first check the vendor's current pricing. Summarize this PDF, but pull the latest guidance from the regulator. Tag this lead, but confirm the company still exists. A browse required call is the one paid line you could not delete. Your local model had no comparable path. One agency I know runs a 17-person outbound team through those exact endpoints. Their VAs draft, the model browses, the model tags, $400 a month on OpenAI just for the browse required calls, because everything else already got moved local 6 months ago. $400 a month is the number this release deletes. Yesterday's release added web search to the same endpoint, running against local weights. The URL swap is 1 line of code, existing OpenAI client, unchanged, pointed at your own machine instead of OpenAI servers. Browse calls keep working, invoice stops arriving. 2 caveats coming, and a hardware answer people avoid, but the headline itself is that simple. Real quick, if you want to catch the next Ollama drop the day it lands and not a week later, hit subscribe, and the exact endpoint swap and prompt pack I am running to kill the boring half of my own API bill is posted inside the Church of SEO Jesus. It is my free school community. The prompts, checklists, and swap-in code from these videos live there next to the video. Free, link in the description and pinned comment. Here is the receipt. I ran the GitHub API against the release tag this morning. Tag name v0.32.11. Published 14th of August, 1:22 in the morning. Body of the release, 4 bullets, verbatim. DeepSeek Harness on Ollama, launched ESH. Muse code on Ollama, launch Muse. Web search on the OpenAI compatible responses API. And the template update. 6 commits ahead of the previous version. 19 build assets. The repo sits at 179,000 stars. First caveat, the release notes contain 0 mention of stability fixes, tool call fixes, GPU memory fixes. The value here is new agent surfaces and web search on the local endpoint, not the stability patch some coverage is going to invent. If your last local run crashed on tool calls, that specific bug is not on the fix list. Now the other 2 bullets. Both start with a single command, both replace something you were probably paying for. Ollama launched ESH, 3 letters. What starts is DeepSeek Harness. DeepSeek's own open source agent harness. The exact runtime their hosted service bills you for, running on your machine, no key. If your team was hitting DeepSeek's API for agent workflows, that swap deletes another invoice line. Ollama launch Muse. Same shape. What starts is Muse code, Meta's agentic coding CLI. Same story, local weights, no key, no hosted tier to worry about metering you. The last time you tried local agents, the tool calls hallucinated, the model looped, and you crawled back to the paid endpoint by Friday. Every operator I know did that at least once. The parity gap that made local feel like a downgrade this week narrows to the specific model quality, not the tooling wrapped around it. Second caveat. Muse code is described in the release text as Meta's agentic coding CLI. If you are dropping it into paid client work, check the actual upstream repo and license before you deploy. Same for DeepSeek Harness. Open source is a word with fine print. Now the honest hardware answer, because a story that ignores this ships a bill of goods. Everything I have talked about runs against Ollama's local weights. Local means the model lives on your machine. Which machine? A recent MacBook Pro with 16 gigs of memory runs a 7 billion parameter model without breaking a sweat. It covers reply drafts, lead tagging, PDF summaries, the boring 60% of what your VA sends to a paid API today. A Mac Mini in the corner runs the same class of model, so does a 2-year-old Windows laptop with a decent GPU. One Mac Mini pays for itself against 3 months of a mid-tier OpenAI bill on the boring workflows alone. If you want a 70 billion parameter model doing agent work through Muse or DeepSeek Harness, you are in $2,000 GPU territory, real number worth naming. The right move for most operators is not to run one model for everything. Route the boring calls to a 7 billion model on the Mac already on the desk, and keep the paid keys reserved for the frontier reasoning work that actually justifies its bill. The new endpoint makes that route trivial. Quick anchor before the verification: every asset I keep talking about lives in one place. The exact one-line URL swap, the prompt pack for the boring 60% of VA workload, the responses API config for local web search, all of it is posted inside the Church of SEO Jesus. It is my free school community. The playbooks, checklists, and swapping code from these videos live in there next to each video, free forever. Link in the description and the pinned comment underneath this video. Verification, because you should not trust me on this. Open github.com/ollama/releases/tag/v0.32.11 yourself right now. Look at the 4 bullets under what's changed. Same page shows the 6 commit diff, the 19 build assets, the published at stamp. Every claim in this video traces to that page. The pattern here is the one nobody is going to write a think piece about because it is boring. Old way. Your VA needs the model to browse, you pay OpenAI per token. The local model has no comparable path, so you keep the key alive purely for that reason. New way. One line of code changes the URL. The browse calls run against local weights. The paid key goes into cold storage for the frontier work only. Old way. You want DeepSeek's agent loop. You hit their hosted endpoint, you get metered. New way. Ollama launch DSH, $0. Old way. Meta's coding CLI, their tier. New way. Ollama launch Muse. The window on this is the exact window we always talk about. After the release, before your competitor notices. Your competitor is not a Fortune 500, it is the other founder in your niche who reads changelogs on Friday morning. And when your VA runs 3 tasks faster and cheaper than theirs does next month, they will not know why. The next Ollama point release is going to compress this even further, and I will cover it the day it lands. If you want to see what a full local agent stack running through this endpoint actually looks like in production, the video for it is queued up next on the end screen.